A few weeks ago, I decided that to celebrate our 50,000 sub milestone, we'd do a Q&A, and I would answer basically any question you guys asked me. Now, thank you, by the way, for sending me so many questions. Between YouTube and Twitter, we got over 100 questions. There is no way I can answer all of them. But in this video, I'm going to answer as much as I can. There's a good mix of questions in this video, from questions about myself and history as a creator to questions about Halo Infinite and the state of the game, or questions about other Halo games, mechanics in Halo, etc. There's a lot that we dive into. I tried to timestamp it in the video play bar so you can jump around if there's a specific question you like. I also included little tips in the video as well, like skill jumps and tips on sliding and snap sliding within the video. So jump around if you like or watch it all. And while I answer questions, I'm going to be playing the game in training mode. Now, training mode is something that I do a lot of, and I highly recommend it. At some point in the future, I'm going to make a detailed video just about training mode. I think it's an excellent source of not just like a warm-up, but practice. There is a ton you can learn in training. So we're going to jump into Live Fire, my favorite map in the game. I'm going to show you all the different settings that I use and just recommend that you try this. One neat thing about training is this is the closest we'll get to playing Infinite's multiplayer on LAN without actually playing multiplayer on LAN. You'll see I've got 0 MS ping. I'm not connected to the server while I play training mode, which also means this is the best, most well-optimized version of Halo Infinite, and it's going to feel better playing here than it'll feel playing on online multiplayer, so that's something to keep in mind. You can practice in custom games, which is a good source of practice as well, and that does connect to a server, so you will have ping there, and it will feel more like playing online multiplayer. But I think despite the difference, it's still good to practice in training because the muscle memory still carries over, in my opinion, and you've got good options to work with. So I still do recommend this. For the weapons, I'll go with BR plus the precision weapon of the map in competitive settings. So for example, on Live Fire, I'll go BR S7 Sniper. If I'm playing Recharge, I'll do BR Shock Rifle. Streets, I'll do BR Stalker, and I just try to keep it consistent. Repulsor is the equipment on this map. Infinite Ammo, we'll do the standard bots. I'm putting Reveal Enemy Location on. BR Start for the bot. Sometimes this doesn't register properly, but I'll do BR Start and then no secondary weapon, so they just have BRs. I keep them on Marine. Sometimes I move their movement to Spartan. I don't think it's super important. Marine is honestly fine for a warm-up or just for basic practice. I take off their equipment, and I take off their ability to pick up weapons and equipment, and those are the settings that I set. If you've never tried Reveal Enemy Location, I recommend you try this. It's basically walling in training, and I don't recommend you do walling. Obviously, it's cheating. But in training, this is useful because you can, yes, you can see your enemies at all times, but it also is useful for just kind of setting reticle placement and for making sure that you're confident firing a shot in every interaction. Basically, like technically speaking, if I ever miss a shot while I'm playing with Reveal Enemy Location, then that's entirely my fault. I missed that shot just based off my own accuracy, right? You are prepared for every single gunfight, so you can theoretically play perfect Halo and never miss. And I think going through those motions and playing the game perfectly can be helpful in developing the right muscle memory when you're playing actually online. That said, we're probably going to miss a lot of shots because I'm going to start answering questions and we're just going to jump around and slide and, just practice tech and do whatever while we answer questions. So let's just jump into that. Remember, like and sub if you guys like this content, you want to see more of it. We are just starting with 50K. Let's keep building it up. If I could take one mechanic from another FPS and bring it to Halo, what would it be? Good question. First, I'll say there are a lot of great mechanics in Halo already that I would love to see make it to Infinite before we worry about adding some other mechanic to the game. Like spring jumping, for example, is a great mechanic I think would work perfectly in Infinite. But if I had to choose, probably a movement mechanic. I think Apex's wall jump is pretty sick. Honestly, it might work in Halo. I know some people might hate the idea of that, but I think it's skillful and it looks sick too. And it's not, you can't like abuse it like a full-on wall run. It's just a quick tap off the wall. I think with Halo's shield system, it could lead to some sick outplays. I don't know. Do I have any favorite memories from Halo that are not from multiplayer, like campaign memories with the bros, Firefight Forge, etc.? That is all multiplayer, but I think I get what you're saying. Yeah, as a child, one of my favorite memories, not even just in Halo, like just in general, are these LAN birthday parties I used to go to as a kid. My buddy, for like 5 years straight, he would set up all these CRTs in the basement, and we'd play Halo 2 System Link. Each team would have like 4 players on each CRT. We'd be screen peeking, working together, and no matter what we did, it was like insanely fun. Like BTB on coagulation, capture the flag, or like rockets and swords on Beaver Creek. That was just chaos, but such a good time. We'd do like super jumps on Zanzibar. It didn't matter. We were all trash at the game, We would talk mad trash to each other. I think that's what made it so great is it was just a simpler time. Like, we're not complaining about, our controllers, our connection, or what setup we're on. Like, we're just enjoying ourselves, just enjoying Halo. I miss those times. When we wouldn't play Halo, we'd be playing Melee. There'd be at least one Smash Bros. Melee setup. That is important. You got to have that when you're taking a break. We'd eat a lot of Doritos, and we drink these. I haven't had these since I was a kid. They're called Chubbies. They're like little tiny sodas. And I don't even know if they still exist, but we would drink those like all night. What motivates you every day for doing Halo content? Why do I make it for... Wait, and why do I think it's the best for me? Okay, I think I got it. And we'll grow an army of passionate Halo esports nerds. There we go. That's what I like to hear. Thank you. Okay, why do I do it? So, I mean, the cheesy answer, you guys do definitely motivate me to make more content. Like, the kind words lets me know that at least, despite the situation with Halo Infinite, at least we're doing something right, making these videos. But just in general, like, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't a huge Halo nerd. Like, if I didn't enjoy the game, and genuinely just like the esports competitive side of it, the combat, like the shield system, and how that allows for like really interesting outplay options, along with the map sizes and the spawns, just creates this like very consistent kind of competitive experience that you can like heavily manipulate. It's just really interesting, and I'm a nerd. I enjoy playing it, and enjoy talking about it when I've got the energy to do so. So that's probably it. Just simply the fact that I like the game motivates me. Do I think there's space in the competitive shooter landscape for a successor to Halo 5's gameplay, even if it comes from another developer other than 343? Would a Halo 5 PC port be enough? So I don't think you could ever remake Halo 5 and have it be as good as Halo 5, if that makes sense. Like, another developer could take a crack at it. Maybe there's a space for like an advanced mobility type of shooter that's very similar, but like Halo 5 is just one big fat happy accident, right? Like, with all the mechanics, a lot of that was just not intended, and it worked perfectly. So I think it'd be like near impossible to recreate. I do think a PC port has to happen. Could you like make change, like maybe more than a PC port would be like, I would love like a graphics upgrade and like an audio upgrade, or like, obviously, tools so that you can mod and create more maps and stuff for the game. And maybe even like porting over, Halo Infinite's equipment system. Like, I don't know, like if you could swap the thrust out for grapple or repulsor or whatever, and like have that in Halo 5, maybe that'd be pretty cool. But just in general, just give the damn game a PC port already, right? Like, I think it's good enough on its own to just stand alone as a PC game. Outside of FPS games, what are your favorite qualities about gaming? Some of your favorite games, and what's your favorite game of all time? Damn, I think Smash Bros. Melee might actually be my favorite game of all time. It's not like currently my favorite game, but it's a gem of a game, and it's very special to me. Like, it made me appreciate deep mechanics in other games, and I think that's like mainly what I look for. Like, for example, button combos in Halo 2, or mechanics in Halo 5, or like curb sliding in Halo Infinite. Anything that's like takes time to master and separates you from a beginner. Even if I'm not playing multiplayer, like I look for that in single player. I'm a big Nintendo kid, so like Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mario Odyssey, all those games have like, like cracked tech basically that lets you speedrun it. Any Zelda game is pretty awesome. Nowadays I play a lot of indie games, so like Binding of Isaac and Hollow Knight and Spelunky are kind of like my top ones. I don't play a lot of Skyrim, don't play any Minecraft. Maybe I'm missing out. By the way, here's a sneaky spot you might not know. You can jump, hold, crouch, and sit on this camera. Definitely not intended. This used to be an out-of-map spot that 343 patched, and they had patched it correctly as far as I remember, but in Season 2, for whatever reason, this became a ledge that you can sit on. Don't think this will stay in the game, mainly because it's just a little wonky. Like, your feet kind of get stuck in it. Like, I'm pressing jump, and I'm not jumping right now. But sometimes I do jump off of it. So it's a weird ledge, but it's in the game, and I'd say, maybe give it a try, see if you can use it while it exists. Maybe make a play. Do I think Halo Infinite's gameplay would benefit from increased gravity mechanics with grenades and other explosions and the hammer, similarly to how Halo 3's worked? I miss grenade jumping, hammer, and brute shot jumping so much. I do agree. Like, I miss weapon-specific jumping, like hammer and brute shot jumping, and that definitely should come back. I don't know if altering gravity is the right way to do that, at least not for like every playlist. And this is something that 343 had addressed already in their patch notes. They said that if they lower gravity too much, It could make it so that grenades and other explosions like knock players off the ground, and I would hate to be knocked off the ground by a grenade personally. I think nades are strong enough as they are, so I don't know if that's the right fix for competitive. I think there's like a fine balance there, and I don't think that nade jumping is like as necessary as it might have been in the classic games, but it should be something that you can choose to do in custom games and like change in custom games if you want to, basically, along with a million other things that should be available in custom games. It's just a, once again, a lack of social options, a lack of a custom browser, just, abilities for people to apply reduced gravity and play the game how they want. How do you grow and maintain such fantastic facial hair? Man's asking the important questions here, clearly. Honestly, I'm just a hairy dude, man. Like, I've been hairy since I was, like, 16. I'm Italian and British is my ethnicity, if that means anything. Probably a hairy combo. I'm Canadian. Like, I'm born and raised in Canada, but I'm Italian and British. I don't really do much, honestly. It just grows. I think the biggest, like, secret is just kind of how I shave it. I just, it's taken a lot of years. I want to say at least 8 years of trial and error. If you go back in my YouTube videos, you can see some of that trial and error. I just kept shaving it and, trimming it up around the neck and the jawline and shaping it till I found something that I liked. And I think, we all got different stuff. So it's all about how you shave what you got, I think. Oh, here's the real question. What's your approach to commentating competitive gameplay? How would you recommend improving at it? It depends on what you're talking about, but if it's like a YouTube clip, then I try to ask a lot of questions and just be observant, I take a lot of time thinking about like how I'm going to discuss it. And I listen to myself a lot. That's probably how I improve pretty quickly, but I think I have a pretty good judge for what sounds good, and I'll just listen to myself and criticize, sometimes to a fault. I don't recommend being like too critical, but definitely listen, like play back your stuff, ask other people. If you're commentating, obviously you got a co-commentator, and working with that person is so important, and listening to them and like, kind of finding specific roles for yourself and your co-commentator, like whether it's color or play-by-play commentary. A lot of different ways to approach it. Just the time in, I think, is the biggest thing, just repetition. By the way, if you didn't notice, when I hit these curb slides, I tend to jump and land on the very edge of each ledge before I sprint slide off. This is very purposeful. It's a special technique that allows me to curb slide even farther and faster. What I'm trying to do is force my Spartan into a fast fall state. Now, fast falling is another secret mechanic. I've talked about this a little bit in a different YouTube video. I'll link that in the description for more info. But fast falling is a special mechanic that tends to happen most often if you land on the edge of a ledge, just like this, and then tap off. Your Spartan will fall faster than usual. That extra downward momentum is important to hit a fast curb slide. If you can pinpoint land on the edge of an object, or like walk out to the very edge and then sprint off slide with good timing, you can send yourself somewhere very far very quickly. And this jump is a perfect place to apply it. It allows me to hit this jump very consistently because I've got this whole fast fall tech kind of down. I'll jump, land on the very edge, sprint off, slide, jump. And by the way, I don't crouch when I'm in the air here. Don't hold crouch. It'll lower your peak height and make this jump impossible. And you can still slide too fast and miss it. But in general, pinpointing that edge and forcing a fast fall lets me hit this consistently. Okay, new map. My second favorite map to practice on is Streets, so we'll go there. Next question, if I could choose 2 weapons to add to Halo Infinite's multiplayer, what would I choose? Being a competitive sweat, they would have to be like precision weapons. So first for me would be DMR. I think we really do need a DMR in the sandbox right now, especially for competitive play. I think this would benefit us for so many reasons, mainly because mouse and keyboard is not viable right now. And I think a precision weapon, like a 5-shot kill DMR that's hyper precise, that has no bloom, would be a better option for mouse than tracking a BR burst. Right now, like, BR starts, I think, it's just very tough for mouse and keyboard to keep up. I don't think it's in a terrible spot on controller. I just think that having other options, like a DMR, would be helpful. Even if you could choose between BR and DMR for starting weapon. I know we hate loadouts, but I think it might be cool if you could just, like, hit a button on the D-pad in between spawns. Assuming the 2 weapons are well balanced, you can just choose whether you want the DMR or the BR. It would add some variance, I think, to competitive play, and maybe, hopefully still maintain balance enough that it's not like an issue. So I think that could be pretty cool. And then probably like a Spartan laser or a railgun. I love the Halo 5 railgun. That weapon is badass. It's like it's just like a multi-kill machine, like it's probably a little too easy to use in Infinite with no thrust to dodge it. So you'd have to either make it like way more difficult or like something more similar to a Spartan laser. You can make it hyper precise. You have to charge it up and shoot it. I know we already have a skewer, but I think like the skewer, you know, kind of serves a different role. I also think it kind of kills vehicles like very easily. A Spartan laser is a little bit more skillful. I think it still has a place in the sandbox. What is my level of education? What were some career paths I considered before going into Halo, and why? So in 2016, I graduated Ryerson University in Toronto with an undergraduate degree, Bachelor in Commerce, so I studied in business school, and a double major in entrepreneurship and marketing. And I guess to an extent I am using that degree today. The biggest thing I picked up from university, though, was public speaking experience. Like towards the end of university, I got pretty invested in student groups that allowed me to get like a lot of hands-on like presentation experience. I did like speech and debate, like I would compete in debate at one point. I knew coming out of university I wanted to work in gaming, so I found gaming-related jobs pretty early on. I worked at the Score Esports part-time. I worked at a gaming, like an esports bar. Sick bar, by the way. I ended up bartending and serving there for a bit. I'm not much of a bartender by any means, but it was just a great hub for like gaming and networking and events, so I knew I wanted to be there. Worked at a Microsoft store with a focus on Xbox for a bit as well, so just gaming-related stuff. Along the way, I got into casting. I commentated Melee at local pubs. There would be tournaments with casting setups, and I would just sit down for free, and that's where I got like my early commentary reps in. And along the way, I just got super invested into Halo. Like Halo 5 came out, super mechanically interesting, interesting game. I've always loved Halo, but Halo 5, from the perspective of a Melee fan, Halo 5 was like pretty cool coming out. So I got really into esports, ended up going to Microsoft Store events and commentating at Microsoft Store events with Martin Ohms and the GT Halo community, Greater Toronto Halo community. And that led me to tournaments and like other opportunities while I started my YouTube channel. So it all kind of just like snowballed from there, if that makes sense. Yeah. Do I prefer wired or wireless controllers, and why? Get yourself a controller that does both, I would say, right? Like if you're just playing casually, then you can use a wireless controller. But if you're trying to compete, then wired controllers have slightly lower latency. They're going to respond more quickly to your inputs. If you want the lowest latency possible, I would say you'd want to be gaming on PC, on a wired controller, and overclock your controller as well, which I'm not going to explain how that one works. Look that up on YouTube. But if you overclock your controller, you can lower the latency to the extreme, basically, so you get the fastest possible response when you play. Does any other game match or exceed the skill in Halo 5's gameplay? That's a big topic right there. Before Infinite came out, I considered making a video sort of about that, like basically trying to prove to the gaming world that combat in Halo 5 has the highest skill gap in any FPS game on the market, not even just Halo, which is obviously a very bold statement. And what I'm saying is specifically combat interactions. So like 1v1, straight up gunfight, and nothing outside of that. None of like the, like there's a lot of different skill gaps in Halo. And that's why I think like in general, when it comes to which Halo is most skillful, you could make a good argument for just about any Halo in different categories, whether it's like awareness or positioning or teamwork, etc. But when it comes to just raw combat, there is nothing that compares to Halo 5, I would say, in terms of skill. Like there's just so many different mechanics, and all of them drastically affect your options. What the heck? Your options in combat, to the point where you can use them to mind game and outskill your opponents like a fighting game. It's basically like a fighting game in FPS form, once again similar to something like a Melee. So that game, it's insanely deep. Just the combat itself. Outside of that, you can make arguments about how easy it might be to aim with certain weapons, or the like teamwork positioning, or the fact that you can use thrust to get out of a bad spot, let's say. Like there's a lot of different arguments, but combat itself is insanely deep, and I just don't have the time to explain why. Here's a big question. What do I think is the one thing Halo needs to become as popular as it once was? Better campaigns, focusing again on social aspect of the game, collaboration with other franchises. Okay, like the biggest thing we need right now is just dev support, honestly. Like just updates, right? Like consistently new content in any form, just like new things to do, social, competitive, in all avenues. We need content and updates and fixes. Is there like one mode that will bring Halo back to its glory? Like I think you can make an argument for Forge and custom browser, but I think the biggest one is some form of battle royale. Like I don't think it's possible to deny the fact that a BR would help Halo's popularity. That's just the industry. It doesn't have to be copy-paste, you know, like Fortnite or Apex BR, but you could take influence from it and Halo-ify it or whatever. Like, Halo's got a very, you know, it's got deep lore. There's a lot you can work with in the franchise to make a pretty sick BR or, like, a BR-inspired game mode. And I think that would be what we would need to, like, really push us to mainstream. But Forge can kind of get us there as well, depending on how good Forge is. And a custom browser like that all will be massive. In general, it all starts with dev support, you know? And it's not that, like, I don't, obviously we don't know the situation over there at 343. Obviously, I think they care about, you know, updating the game. I think, you know, for whatever reason, the game is just not easy for them to develop for at the moment. They're under a lot of technical debt. They can't make the changes and fixes that they need to in a timely fashion, and hopefully one day they can, so we can get through this. What is the best thing to focus on when trying to improve at Halo Infinite? I think that answer is, like, just different for every person. The biggest thing, I think, is just to be very observant, you know, to play the game, watch back your own gameplay, ask as many questions as possible. You know, why did you die when you die? Figure out what your weaknesses are and then iron them out. You know, like, training mode is one good way to work on just about anything. Your aim, your reticle placement, your movement, your mechanics, your... You know, just, like, yeah, just about anything you can practice in training. But that's just one avenue, right? You're, like, matchmaking, playing in scrims. Like, maybe communication is your issue. Like, the only way to figure it out is to just, you know, do a bunch of stuff and be observant along the way and watch other people. You want to, and, like, obviously we only got so much time to master things, but, like, the ideal scenario is you're just, like, basically living and breathing the game, right? Like, when you're not playing, it's on your mind and you're watching, like, Formal or Lucid or somebody play and thinking critically about, you know, what they're doing and how it differs from what you pull off. And, you know, not letting it overwhelm or deter you as well. You know, like, don't shit on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Believe in your ability to improve and try to maintain that as you learn. You know, don't let, like, Lucid hitting, like, a sick overkill, you know, stop you from pulling something interesting away from that and learning, if that makes sense. Like, I think some people will see some pro do something crazy and then get discouraged and believe they can't do it. Like, you know, one step at a time. What's the phrase? Rome wasn't built in a day. Anyway, you get it. Which items in Infinite Sandbox do I think do not belong or wish were removed or tweaked? I know you won't neg. No, I mean, I can't neg on Infinite. People think I'm, like, some sort of, like, look, like I'm some shill or something for 343, or, like, I can't say anything negative. Like, I definitely got upset about the skill jump patch. I was openly critical about that. In general, like, the way I work with my YouTube is I tend to just like to talk about things that I'm passionate about. That's really it. Like, it's hard for me to summon the energy to talk about stuff that I just, like, I'm unhappy with. I'm not that type of YouTuber, you know? It's not like I don't see the glaring issues with the game. It's not like I don't get depressed or demotivated when content doesn't come out or things don't go my way. Like, I'm a human being. I'm not happy with the state of the game, but there's also a lot of cool shit in the game that I genuinely enjoy, and I get more energy talking about that than I do just ragging on the game, you know? Anyway. Your question, though, so personally you feel the skewer is a cheap weapon that could honestly be removed from the game in favor of a Spartan laser. So I'm, at the moment, like, I'm more a fan of, like, what can we add to the game rather than, like, what can we take away from it? Because the game has barely, you know, enough as it is. I'd rather just, like, focus on adding to it. That said, I think obviously the Mangler is like it's like the most offensive weapon in competitive play. They did nerf it. It's in a better spot. In general, though, I just don't find it to be a very difficult... It's a fun weapon. It's one of my favorite weapons, like, just to, like, you know, sandbag with, but it's just not very difficult to use. It's very powerful, and it doesn't feel like it fits in competitive at the moment. Though I wish, you know, or hope at some point we can find a way to put it in. And I've talked about that. You know, like, I think having a sidekick instead of a Mangler would be a better play. And similar with the skewer, like, yeah, the skewer is not really the most skillful. Like, for vehicles, not very skillful, right? It just destroys vehicles. It's a long-range kill with the skewer is satisfying and skillful, though, and I respect that. A close quarters, like, shotgun kill with the skewer can be, like, a little bit free, for sure, and that's kind of annoying, and that's what we're seeing in Catalyst. Like, I would rather we had the S7 sniper than the skewer. It wouldn't be, like, just a matter of do we take the skewer out of the game, right? Like, you'd still want it in the game, and I don't think there's any, like, specific, like, balancing tweaks I would make to it. I would just have it, you know, have the S7 sniper instead of the skewer in Catalyst. I think it's only there because I think 343 wants to show it off in competitive, which I understand. I think, you know, maybe down the line we'll get to see the S7 in Catalyst, and then maybe down the line we'll get to see a Spartan laser in place of a skewer in some game types, so we do have, like, more skillful interactions with vehicles or, etc. We just need more. That's the issue. It's not like what can we take out, it's what can we add. Also wanted to talk about this new snap slide tech I've been working on, by the way. I've been doing it a little bit as I just kind of like run around the map, but I've learned some things about snap sliding that make it way more viable. And when I do actually put this into like a proper video, this is a game changer. But basically, if you watch my other snap slide video, I said you need sprint momentum to set up a snap slide and launch out. You just need more momentum than walking speed, if that makes sense. So you don't have to like sprint jump. You can sprint slide and then sprint slide a second time and chain a slide off of a ledge, use that momentum, and transfer it into a snap slide afterwards. I also realized that your sensitivity and the speed that you turn your control sticks really doesn't matter very much. As far as I can tell, like what I do it for this one is I slide off and I turn in midair. So I'm facing cafe before I even hit the ground. And then when I do hit the ground, shortly after landing, so of course you got to resprint in midair too, but shortly after landing, I'll slide again with good timing. I think the timing and the positioning and the momentum coming into it is the real key to getting a launch here. So I sprint, slide, resprint in midair, turn before I hit the ground, and then time that next slide out. And depending on how effectively I do this, I can go decently far. And you can apply this in like a variety of different ways, like really interesting, creative ways, like right here. Sprint, slide off, and if I angle this right, slide off, resprint, sprint, slide. It's a little technical. I'll show a clip with an overlay so you can see what I'm doing, but I can throw myself into this wall with this setup now. Slide off the gen, and depending on the angle, like I can hit this wall too. And you can imagine just flying by and like shooting somebody in PD as you do it. So these are like game-changing rotations that are consistent to hit. Right here, you can do it again. Like that. Land on the generator if you're precise with it. Oh, one big thing, actually. I hold forward the entire time. Do this. Don't ever release the left stick. Don't set it back to neutral. So once you sprint forward, slide, make sure you never stop holding forward. If you're on mouse and keyboard or on controller, for whatever reason, the fact that I stay holding forward the entire time carries that momentum better. If I release it, I'm not going to go anywhere near as far. That's the only, like, real pattern I've noticed, is to just make sure you're holding the stick forward. Will I start doing pro game reviews like I used to? My favorite one was Reciprocity Traps Talks in a Checkmate, the Pit Team Slayer. That's a classic. That was a few years ago, or two, I think 2019. I used to do these, like, long-form game reviews on my Twitch that would take, like, an hour and a half, where I would just, like, go through a full game in theater and break it down. I do want to do that again at some point, so I will be applying that. It's like, I don't like Theater and Infinite right now. It's kind of broken. It's just like difficult and tedious to use, so that kind of like ruins things for me a little bit. But just long form live stream breakdowns, I do want to incorporate again at some point. Just, no guarantee on when that'll happen, but I'm definitely interested in it. We're on recharge now. I changed the map again. Gonna answer just a few more questions. I figure at this rate it's gonna be a pretty long video, so just a few more. Does exercise and being physically fit or athletic benefit pro play? You seem like you work out. Thank you. I've been trying to work out a little bit more. Somebody else asked a question about that too. I try to work out 4 to 5 times a week. I see a trainer sometimes, a couple times a week, usually just for like back and legs day to really kind of push me for the workouts I don't want to do, that I hate doing. And I do think it's helpful. I think it can benefit. It's obviously not necessary. Like, most pros aren't jacked, swole, hitting the gym and being at the top of their game at the same time, though I do guarantee that they are involved in some sort of like fitness or, stretching or athleticism to some degree so that they can preserve how long they can play at the top of their game. That's really the objective, right? Just to be able to preserve your skills and your abilities as long as possible. And stretching and being physically fit and just caring about that, like the discipline required to be fit and the nutrition needed to, to stay healthy, all of that, benefits you. And I think it carries over to all areas of your life, on top of the fact that just eating healthier and, going to the gym can just increase your energy levels and your motivation and just the way that you feel about yourself and how confident you feel. I think that's huge, right? Like, in the end of the day, you're going to play better if you feel good. And working out helps you feel good. It's that simple. So if you can feel better about yourself through, being athletic, then why not? I highly recommend it. For a while now, I've been grinding and trying to get a team together to compete in HCS, but been having bad luck finding the right people to grind and build from the ground up with. I also want to start streaming, but haven't worked up the courage to do so. My question is, what advice would I give to someone starting out in the Halo comp scene and streaming for the first time? So first of all, I'll say, like, your issue is definitely very normal. I think it's pretty difficult, you know, finding people to play with and start from the ground up with and build a team. I think that's a problem that kind of everybody has. Even just finding the courage to stream, like, I totally understand and can relate to that. I might be comfy making videos, but when it comes to live streaming, I get nervous, you know, gaming and talking to you guys for whatever reason. I struggle with it too, so I understand that. I think you just got to kind of keep chipping away at it and keep trying to find different communities to build those relationships. So I think one example, and I don't know this community too well, but I've been considering getting in this Discord as an option. It's called the Arenas Discord. I'll put all the info on how to join it, but it sounds interesting. I think there's like a 1 to 50 ranking system, kind of like classic Halo, and you gain ranks as you play, and there's a lot of people joining it. You can meet different people who might be, you know, like-minded and want to improve. There's also the sauna Discord, which is where a lot of the sweaty Halo AMs will play. Some pros play there too, like Spartan. Even as an extension of that, I would say, you know, join a lot of Twitch streams and try to get more involved in Twitch streamer communities, because they tend to run community events and little tournaments, and those are all great opportunities to meet other people. Like Tony, YNOT B Reckless, is streaming pretty regularly, and I'm sure he's got a great community. I don't really know if he does events. Any pros, I'm sure, are running stuff like that. I have a Discord too. You can join my Discord. I need to be more active on it and kind of build things out so that we can, you know, kind of find each other and make some communities through my Discord. That's something I'd like to do at some point, but for now, you know, feel free to join, and then down the line, hopefully I can get that going. Do I believe that at any point in Infinite's time there will be any M&K players that are picked up by HCS teams? In my opinion, does Infinite's longevity get hurt on PC with M&K casuals not wanting to play because they know they will be at a disadvantage against controllers, or is it negligible to think this? There is definitely an issue, right? Like, clearly there are in aiming, at least, there are some disadvantages on M&K that are discouraging people from playing, and that is understandable, and that needs to be changed to have a healthy PC community, like, in the future. I do think down the line we could see M&K players in HCS if some of the right changes are made. Like, and I don't play on M&K personally, but it does sound like there are certain, like, optimization and latency issues with aim on mouse that you don't really feel if you're playing, say, Valorant, which feels, you know, just smoother and better optimized, is what I've been hearing. So, you know, making sure that it's like the smoothest, most well-optimized experience for PC, I think, is obviously, like, primary, like, very important, a priority. And like, they've talked, you know, I know people talk about, like, should we, you know, nerf controller or aim assist in some way? I don't think that's the answer. I'd rather, you know, they consider finding ways to just upgrade the M&K experience. Like, I've heard of, you know, potentially adding a tiny bit of magnetism to mouse for something like the BR, so it's a little bit more forgiving. I don't know. You know, maybe that's an option. I'd rather do that instead of just, like, you know, nerf controller to the ground, because I think the game on controller, at least controller versus controller, feels pretty solid, pretty well balanced. Having the right weapons is huge too. Like I said earlier, having a DMR is gonna, you know, help even out that skill gap and make mouse and keyboard, like, more approachable. If you are an M&K player, depending on what your goals are, I don't think you're completely, like, SOL. I think, like, from a social or even ranked perspective, it's definitely still viable and can definitely compete. I think just at the top level of pro play, you know, it's unlikely we're going to see it until we see some of those optimizations. In the meantime, though, I would say, like, really try to focus on some of those key advantages that M&K has. Like, when it comes to movement, just being able to, cancel your slide or turn around and sprint out of engagements extremely quickly. Even just the fact that slide is tied to your aim movement. Like, you can, on a dime, turn and curb slide if you get that mechanic down and you know, move really far and quickly around maps. Grappling, repulsor has advantages. Throwing nades, you've got an advantage. Most power weapons, like rockets or sniper, like, there's a lot of different ways that, you know, you can kind of just really use the sandbox and the key advantages of M&K to your advantage. I feel like I'm just using this word too much, but you get the point. Just try to focus on what works for M&K for now until we do see those optimizations. Okay, last question. Where do I see myself in 5 years and 10 years? Shout out to Magic Moonshot, by the way. She's a Halo commentator and a good friend. 5 years. 1 million subs on YouTube. Maybe. Is that's realistic? I feel like we've definitely seen people get a lot more subs in a shorter period of time. Hitting that many subs would obviously be a goal of mine. Whether or not that's possible does depend on the state of Halo, whether or not this game, gets healthy again, or if I stick with it, which for the foreseeable future, I would like to stick with Halo. Outside of that, I do want to just kind of continue to grow and represent the game on, a larger scale. Being able to make content for the HCS Raleigh event, make that trailer video that was broadcasted was just incredible, and I would love to keep doing that and, kind of more closely associate what I do with the Halo HCS, marketing, and really just kind of show people, the broader audience, what's so great and so exciting about Halo. I love making content like that. And obviously commentating it on, the main stage. So all that is, part of my goals and just kind of, growing and building that relationship. So I'm doing it more and on a bigger scale. And even this would be more of a fantasy dream, having my own dedicated studio where I could create top tier, breakdown content or esports related content, have, different types of content too, not just the analytical breakdowns with the TV and, the whole set, but a talk show kind of setup too. This is a big fantasy dream. And I don't know if it's kind of a pipe dream, but part of me has always wanted to have a talk show kind of Jimmy Fallon or an Ellen style show with a live audience and couch chairs and a band and everything, and also streaming on Twitch and interview Twitch celebrities or just gaming celebrities, your Ninja, your Pokimane, etc., and just kind of have fun and make that type of content, which does to an extent exist, but not on that couch chair official talk show kind of level. But who knows? Right? Maybe that's just kind of the fantasy dream. But I do, it's a bunch of stuff. I also want to keep playing the game and improving at the game. There's a part of me that kind of wants to compete despite being 30. And I don't know, how I would go about that. It would take some time and to kind of, get over myself a little bit. I want to keep growing on Twitch as well. So a lot of different areas I want to kind of continue to improve and grow myself. I definitely need to put it into, numbers, just like YouTube, getting 1 million subscribers. Start to manifest it. And that's all I'm going to do for now. I'm happy to do a lot more of these. If you guys want to see more Q&As, let me know. Once again, thank you, everybody who sent me questions. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for the subs, too. It feels great to hit a milestone like this, even when things aren't going so well with Halo. It once again lets me know that we're kind of on the right track, right? Even now, we can, kind of make things happen, make strides. And I think the same thing goes for all of you, right? If you've got something that you love, even when, Halo's not in a great spot, that shouldn't stop you from, going out there and chipping away at it, trying to make that progress. Anyway, if you like this content, you want to see more of it, then you know what to do. Hit the like button on the video, sub to the channel if you haven't done so already, and check out my other content. Till then, good luck on the way. I'll see you soon.